Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to those of you in the cyber sanctuary. Welcome again to another online study of Determined to Rise, based upon a book written by Anthony Carter. It's a great self-help study that we are doing. We welcome you to this new year, trusting and praying that God bless you with love, joy, peace, good health, and prosperity. Let's get right to it this morning. Listen, we left off talking about, or beginning to talk about, the fact that Tony had a plan. He had a plan. Brothers and sisters, Tony had not only determined to rise, but he had a plan. He had a plan. And you're going to need a plan. To jumpstart this plan, Tony had to do something that many of us are afraid to do, and that is to do a self-evaluation. Many of us are afraid of self-reflection because of what we might see. Let's keep it 100 with no caps. You know, self-reflections takes courage, but also it takes honesty. If you're going to be successful, you're going to have the courage, and you're going to have to be honest about what you see when you do self-reflection. Self-reflection and evaluation calls Tony to remember what his early dreams, goals, and aspirations were for himself and for his future family. You see, this self-evaluation was the driving force that executed the plan of Tony's getting back to the definition of who he wanted to be. And let me pause here to say that you got to determine that. You have to determine who God is calling you to be. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, life is full of distractions. And it's not a question of will they come, but the question is, what will you do when they come? Will you allow them to distract you? And let me park my mute here for a minute and help you understand and identify how distractions come to us in life. For they come to us disguised in many different ways. Many different ways. I'm talking about distractions. Sometimes it comes in the form of a parent. I'm going to let that settle in for some of you. That's right. Sometimes it comes in the form of a parent. Some parents try to live their life through their children. And it becomes a distraction for who the child really is meant to be. Sometimes distractions come in the form of a spouse. Sometimes it comes in the form of children or siblings, an employer or an employee. Sometimes it comes in the form of a coworker. Sometimes it even comes in the form of a minister, church members. Everybody got an idea of who you should be and what you should be. Sometimes distractions come in forms of sickness, relationships, and sometimes even yourself. A mind that's not well can be a distraction. A double-minded person will be a distraction and a hindrance. Beloved, all the individuals I just mentioned, from a parent to a relationship, are not always distractions on purpose or by design. But sometimes they are motivated by love, but these individuals are depositing into you what they think you should become or who you are. It's not that they're trying to distract you. It's not that they're trying to hurt you or harm you. No. Distractions are not always motivated by a desire to sabotage your dream. But nonetheless, when these ideas of who you are or who you should become come flooding in, they drown out the actual dreams and desires of who you really are or who you're trying to become. But by God's grace, Tony stopped to self-reflect. And because he self-reflected, he remembered his own heart's desires. And he recognized he was not too far from his path. to being who he desired to be, and that he was still well on his way to rising to the person of his childhood dreams. Beloved, this self-reflection was the power source. Did you hear that? This self-reflection was the power source that motivated Tony to begin to write the outline of this awesome work that we're looking at today. His book, Determined to Rise. That morning, his heart, his spirit was full of joy. Tony was finally doing what he loved. He was doing him. Let me say that again. He was finally experiencing what he loved and what he was doing because he was doing him. Here's a side note. I mentioned that Tony remembered his youthful dreams of who he wanted to be in life. I want you to remember, it's important to dream. Let me let that sink into your spirit. It's important to dream. When I say dream, I'm speaking in terms of having a vision, a goal for yourself and for your future. You see, sometimes that future includes more than just you. It may include a spouse. It may include children. And even years of your years down the road, it may even include your aging parents. Whatever it may be, it must be yours. Whatever this vision, whatever this dream, whatever this goal, you have to own it. It has to be yours. Because if it's not yours, it brings about burden, disappointment, and stagnation. You see, beloved, my mother, I spoke about, it may even include your aging parents. My mother told us years ago that at that time she had 9 living children, and she would often say, and she said it since then, we've lost some siblings, but she said, all the children I have is no reason I should be in a nursing home. So my plans already, beloved, and my wife understands this, and she has no problem with it. Because we're even considering her grandmother. But my future already includes my mother being with me if that need to be. But you got to have a goal. You got to have a plan, and you have to own it. It has to be yours. Have you ever noticed that when you buy something, you spend your money in buying it? You ever notice how precious it is to you? You ever realize or recognize the value of something when you use your own hard-earned money? Not because of its money value, really, but because you bought it with your hard-earned money. People won't treat things that's valuable to you like you will treat them because the value is determined by you. And don't get it wrong. I'm not talking about money and cents. Because some of us have some cheap things that we bought, but they have a great value to us because of what they mean to us. I remember in reflecting when I bought my first car for my family and how my wife mistreated the car and allowed the kids to mess up the car. I had my daughter at that time, just one daughter. And I remember telling her over and over again, you need to clean this milk out of this car for it stains the car and causes the car to smell. But when she bought her piece of jalopy, her first lemon, she took care of it. I mean, it was clean all the time. Motor wasn't worth a dime. But it's because it was bought with her money. It was hers. When something is of great value to us, we treat it a different way. The only difference was that she bought it. It was hers. It was valuable to her. What are you saying, Miles? I'm saying to you that when you own your future, when you own your vision, your goal, and your dreams, it becomes of great value. People will feel free to tell you what you ought to do, what you ought to aspire to be, but it's not really valuable to them. They don't make any true investments, most of people. Here's the point. Remember, it's your dream. It's your wish. It's your aspiration. And life and history has proven that others can spend tens of thousands of dollars on you. But if you don't own the dream, if the desire is not yours, if you are not determined to rise, it's a waste of money and it's a waste of time. Let me say that again. It doesn't matter how much people give you, invest in you. If the dream or vision or aspiration is not yours, it's a waste of money and time. I have great respect for one of my sons in the gospel. His parents wanted him to become a doctor. Excuse me. And he's a very intelligent young man. And intelligent enough to be a doctor. He was so highly intelligent that he received a full scholarship from a prestigious medical university. But it took great courage. It took self-reflection. It took realizing and owning his own dream to have the courage to tell his parents that that's not what he wanted to do. A full ride to a medical university, a prestigious university. But because of self-reflection and because he had courage, he knew it was not what he wanted to do. Remember, folk was ready to give him thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. You must dream. You must have a vision. You must have a desire for your own future. I told all 5 of my children when they were very young that I was not going to pay for any college education. Myself and their mother were making all the necessary sacrifices to ensure that they had a great opportunity to go to any university of their choice. We moved to one of the best neighborhoods. Their mother researched the best schools. They had a beautiful, spacious home. All they had to do was to go to school, do their work, get great grades, and colleges and universities would have been sending them letters begging them to come to their university on a full scholarship. Their mother and I had laid the foundation. Now all they had to do was build on it. What am I saying? I'm saying that you have to have a personal desire if you're going to have a great future. If you're going to rise from whatever stagnant place of life you're in, you're going to have to own your own dream. Your desire. What is it that God is calling you to be? And my children had to invest in themselves. I did the early investing. But by God, they were not going to go to a university and party all day and all night and come back and give me some D grades. Wasting my money. No ma'am and no sir. And don't come writing me or calling me because I'm not interested in what you do with your children. If they would have gone to school, studied hard, we had them in a place where they could have been just like some of their fellow students who got letters from all kind of universities overseas now, doing wonderful. You got to want it. You got to want it. I didn't mean to park my mule there that long, but I'm just trying to tell you, you got to want it. I'm living my dream. I believe I was formed in my mother's womb to preach the gospel based upon a prayer my father asked God. And God blessed him. And so I'm just doing my thing, living my dream. What about you? What about you? Let's get back to the book. So yes, Tony was now full of great joy. But then there was another fulfillment as well. Tony states that the best and most satisfying part came when hearing the testimonies of family members, church members, employees, friends, audience members, his young students, and radio listeners, as they told how they had benefited from some small or large way from all of his gifts and from his desired work. Notice these two words, his gifts. If Tony had not gotten back to being him, they would have never been blessed by his gifts. Let me say that again. If Tony had not gotten back to being him, doing him, all of these individuals before mentioned would have never benefited from his gifts. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. There is something that God has placed in you that only you can do, and that only you can do the way that you do. Oh, yeah. Someone else can teach a class. Someone else can write a book. Someone else can design a car. Someone else can build a house. Someone else can mentor students. Someone else can cook food. Someone else can design clothes. Someone else can be a trainer. Someone else could be a scientist. Somebody else could be a doctor or a dentist, preacher, elder, deacon, father, or mother. But can't nobody do it like you. There is something that God has placed inside you that only you can do it like you. Tony realized that day that being him was not all about him. I think I said something. I said, Tony realized that day, beloved, being him was not all about him. I'm going to let that sink in. Yes, it was a rough journey, but he got back to being him. And by his own testimony, he has never been happier. And that's what I'm trying to get you to see this morning, this afternoon, this evening. I'm trying to get you to see that until you get to being you, until you come to that place where God has designed for you, until you're using that gift, that innate gift that God has given to you like he has given to no one else. There's thousands, tens of thousands, millions of preachers, but nobody preached like me. I'm not saying that to say that I'm a great preacher or greater than others, but what I am saying, there's only one Matthew Miles Sr. Good, bad, or indifferent. There's only one Matthew Miles Sr. Can't nobody cook corn like me. Now, I'm not saying that others can't prepare corn better than me. But what I am saying, nobody cooks it like me. Not being you can not only take away from your joy, but it can also rob others of joy. Let me let that sink in. Not being you can not only rob you of your joy, but it can rob others of joy. Look, Tony does not express this, but I've lived life long enough to know that unhappy folk tend to make other folk around them unhappy. You ain't got to say amen. I know I'm right. Misery loves. I hear you. I heard you finishing. Company. Misery love company. You know, it's not written what a minister won't experience. I can remember a senior member who told me when I walked up on her poisoning the mind of a new convert, she had the nerve to tell me, I love being a stinker. Misery loves company. Birds of a feather flock together. Unhappy people make other people unhappy. What do you think happened with joyful people? Now, I ain't talking about the haters now. I ain't talking about the haters. Because there are some folk that hate the fact that you come to work happy all the time. There are some folk in the Lord's house that hate that you come to church happy. But I'm talking about people with good sense. Happy people make other people happy. Joyful people make other people joyful. Folk who are diligent and strong in their faith tend to encourage others to be diligent and strong. Hebrews 10:25 about not forsaking the assembling of ourselves. We love verse 25, but what about verse 23 and 24? The strength of verse 25 is based on 23 and 24. The reason why you should not forsake the assembling is so that when you show up and you give examples and you provoke others to good work and to love. Sometimes the only sermon that a person will really pay attention to is the sermon that you're living in your purpose. Beloved, one of the greatest sources of knowledge are books. It's been once said that if you don't want an African American to know something, put it in a book. Well, that may have been true during slavery. But how many of you know the devil is not only a liar, but he's the father of all liars? Tony states that his life changed. And his life change started his cousin Terry told him about a book authored by Robert Kiyosaki entitled Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was from that book that Tony learned how to build a business that would allow him to pursue his passion while the business took care of his livelihood. One of the things that might help you come to be who you need to be is reading, researching, your interest, that thing that's in the back of your heart, your mind, that thing that keep nudging at you, that thing that keep whispering to you. Maybe you haven't listened to it, or maybe you've shied away from it because you don't know much about it. But start researching, start reading. And it may reveal itself to you. Beloved, it is important to remember that Tony was not simply acting on an impulse. He had a vision. He had a goal. He had a vision and he had a goal to rise. To rise to his next level. And he was working a plan. If you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. A hint to the wise, don't be foolish and just walk away from your financial support without a plan. What do you mean, Miles? Don't you get just a thought in your head and quit your job. Talking about the Lord will provide. The Lord give you common sense. He tells you to count up the cost. Don't be a fool. Now, let me say something for the smart Alex. Oh, brother, now that's what I did. I quit my job, didn't have no plan, and the Lord blessed me. Yeah, the Lord bless foolish people sometimes. So I'm not saying that can't happen. But what I'm saying to you, that's not the best way to do it. Not even example by God. Now, Don't come quoting me what God called to Abraham and told him to go to a city he didn't know, a land or country he didn't know nothing about. Those were doing miraculous days. Keep it in the context. Don't be teaching no false doctrine. He tells us now to count up the cost. So I'm not saying it can be done that way, but with a whole lot more pain and unnecessary heartache and tears most of the time. Tony was working a plan. You got to have a plan. In reflection, he felt that his plan was not a great as his determination. You see, determination defined its consistency and commitment. Yeah, he didn't think his plan was that great, but Tony had determination, consistency, and commitment. Consistency and commitment will beat out regular wisdom and knowledge any day. Because most of the time when folk think they're really smart and intelligent, they don't continue to study in that area. I gotta close. Tony declared he didn't know how he would make it, but he knew he would. You got to know you'll make it. And with God, you will. Yes, he made mistakes. He was impatient at times. It took the biggest toll on his marriage, by his own admission. But he was consistent, committed, and built a business that employs and helps others to achieve their goals. It freed him to reach and set new goals. He sung weekly with his band in the community. He sang with a highly demanded gospel group, recorded a solo CD to be released along with this book, wrote many new songs, many spiritual songs, sung in churches all over the country, was teaching young adults, mentored confidants, hosted a radio show, was featured in a magazine, newspapers. Because all of this, his doing, all of his dream, helped so many people. It was through his work that Tony realized others were as he once was. That others, or through his work, he realized the passion that he had to help others become as he had become. It was through his work that Tony realized others were as he once was, not passionate about their position in life. And the answer to that are in 5 steps. And we'll explore those 5 steps in our next study. So not only can your dream and your joy bring joy to others, it can also help them realize that they're not where they want to be either. Let me say that again. You see, Tony realized that although he was enjoying his life, he was doing him, he was bringing so much joy to other people, but he was also enlightening other people to the fact that they were not where they wanted to be. And that's what this book is all about. 5 steps that he designed to get to where you want to be in your life. The question tonight I leave with you today, this evening, whenever you're watching this. Are you determined to rise? That's the question. Are you dissatisfied with where you are in life? Whether it's your spiritual walk, whether it's in corporate America, your career, whether it's in your personal life. If you're not satisfied, then you should have a determination to rise. Until next time, think on these things. Take care of yourself. Share this lesson with someone else. that they might be blessed. God bless you.